guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. It's been a very slow news day when it comes to interesting topics, so I did grab a couple of stories that I think are pretty key. I'm going to be talking about mainstream media is in its death throes, and it's long overdue. You know, in many ways, this is still a men's issue because men make up half the population of the earth. And if you find out that, 5 or 6 companies, main companies own, 90% of all media, you realize that those 5 or 6 people can pretty much tell you whatever they want you to hear. And if you veer away from the mainstream media's algorithms and stories and the way that they want to represent news to you, well, you might just become knowledgeable and smart and understanding the truth of the world. And they fear this, and they're pushing back against it. And when they push back against it, when they use smears and name calling and other things, that means they're fighting, and they have nothing left to use that actually makes sense. So from Tucker Carlson here, let me see if I can find it. I had my video pulled up. Here it is. So Tucker Carlson, as many of you know, he calls himself a liberal, and he used to work at MSN, and he used MSNBC, I think. And I think he worked for CNN for a short period of time, and then he finally landed over on Fox. He became very popular on Fox because he would push back against conservatives. He would push back against Republicans and Democrats. He would push back against the government and some of its actions, say, over in the conflict that we've got going on. He would push back against the deep state. He talked, which is what a liberal does. A true liberal pushes back on everybody and says, hey, we need to know what's going on, and we don't trust what's going on. Well, he went viral today because he sat down and had an interview with Elon Musk about various topics. And here we are a couple weeks or a month later, whatever it is, and he has now been fired by Fox, and he's branching out on his own. And he's going to be putting up his show exclusively, I think he said exclusively, on Twitter. Now, according to Musk and according to Tucker, he's not doing this with he's not making an agreement. He's not being paid cash. I think he was offered $100 million from Rumble. All he said is, I'm going to speak the truth on Twitter. And Elon Musk, he did make a statement. I didn't pull it up from the Twitter page, but Elon Musk said, there's no deal, there's no contract. Tucker's just decided to put his content up here, and you can subscribe to him, and we will take 0% of the subscription fees for the first year and only 10% thereafter. Now, I think this is a brilliant move by Elon because many of you know YouTube takes 30% of its content creators' money that you use for support. And if you go to Rumble, I think it's something like 20%. And Locals is a little bit different than that, but they certainly all take more than 10%. So by doing this, what he's basically saying is if you want to watch Tucker Carlson, you can come to Twitter. And while Twitter doesn't have these algorithms like many other places do, for example, like Locals has no algorithm, Rumble has no algorithm, but it's very difficult to find new content because you don't have a social group to share things with. That's where Twitter is different. You know, many times people can tag me in a post, and even I've got, 7,800 or something followers. I'm slowly growing over on @BachelorJoker, but I've only been posting a couple of months. And what I notice is that somebody can tag me in something, and then I get a little notification bell, and I can see a meme or a post or something else that one of you has tagged me in, even if I'm not necessarily following you. So there is ways to get people outside of their bubble of news and information without an algorithm doing it, like YouTube, where it's being controlled, or no algorithm, like Rumble. And I do like Rumble, but it's very hard to find new content that's very similar because you only get a couple of key tags, and it doesn't necessarily show you around very well. I think this is exceptionally smart, and I'm going to give you a couple examples. I was going to play this dialogue by Tucker, but I don't think it's necessary. I think you guys get the point that he's going over there and he's going to be exclusive on Twitter. And part of what is driving this is headlines like this. This is from CNN, who used to be the go-to for breaking news and world events. I was a huge fan of CNN. Now CNN's trash to me, because what people fail to realize, whether it's a news agency, whether it's the woman that you're dating, whether it's your boss at work, whether it's a family member, all you have to do is catch them in a lie once or twice, catch them cheating once or twice, or once if you're smart, and you never trust that individual again. And all that has to happen with CNN or any other news agency is they post one thing that you're like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I can't believe that. And instantly, you now have a feeling about that. Now, I pulled up a couple of these, but I'll tell you, I don't trust Fox. I don't trust CNN. I don't trust any of the mainstream media. I trust individuals that are like myself that look through and they say, okay, I've looked at CNN, I've looked at Fox, I've looked at Al Jazeera, I've looked at the BBC, I've gone to all these places, or they do on-the-ground reporting, and they say, okay, here's some documents I pulled up, here's some stuff I want to talk about, here's an interview I had with the person in question. Mainstream media no longer does that. They think they can filter the information and tell you what they want you to know, but they're going to leave out certain parts that maybe they think you shouldn't know. And that is creating a narrative. Maybe at the end of this, I will play Tucker's interview. I'll just do it at the end, and that way, if you're not interested. This is from CNN, though. Right-wing extremist. If you've ever heard anything by Tucker, it doesn't mean you have to agree with Tucker. But he is like I said, he calls out the right and the left, the rich and the well-to-do. And all he's doing is saying, hey, let's pay attention to this stuff. Let's look at this stuff. Why have we not been giving a list of the people that flew to that certain very rich man's island that didn't delete himself in a jail cell? Why aren't we seeing that list? That's something he brings up. Where's all the money that we're going to pay for what's going on in this conflict between Ukraine and Russia? Where's the tab? How is it that we're hearing money is disappearing? Let's ask those questions. That's all Tucker does. But anyway, they call him a right-wing extremist. Tucker Carlson will relaunch his program on Twitter, a platform he praised as the only one remaining large free speech platform in the world after Fox News fired him last month. And if they had just left their opinion out of this and said, Tucker Carlson is relaunching, no problems. But they had to throw in the right-wing extremist. And if you know Tucker, he's not. And again, doesn't mean you agree with him. Same thing with this one. From BBC News World. Why some people are spreading false rumors about the Texas man that took people out with a long-range hole puncher, and they literally put a picture of Tim Pool up here. They didn't put a picture of, why would they put Tim Pool on here? Now, maybe they talked. I didn't even bother because I'm not going to click on BBC World News. But even if they inside the story said, Tim Pool, a YouTuber, said XYZ, why put his photo up instead of because if you were to just see this, you would be like, wow, so Tim Pool is the guy that did this stuff in Texas? It's fake news. All of it's fake news. And that's why we celebrate Vice going away and BuzzFeed going away and CNN's numbers from YouGov. Now, this is from Newsmax, ironically, but they're unapologetically right-wing. They admit it. They at least admit it, which I'm fine with. Like Ben Shapiro said that many times. Again, love him or hate him, he's like, look, I have an agenda. I am a very conservative person, and I'm going to give you the news from my view. At least you're honest about it. But CNN and these other places saying, oh, no, we don't have any hidden agendas. And then they start making up the stuff that they make up. You're like, but you're lying to me. And people lose faith in that. And when they do, that's the end of the news. And that's a good thing. Because now for my news, I might listen to a Tim Pool. And I might read the news myself. I from all over the place. And then I might listen to Russell Brand, and then I might listen to Jimmy Dore, and then I might listen to Redacted, and then I might listen to Joe Rogan. And at the end of the day, I feel I have a better view on the world because they're not coming at it as I'm a journalist that's better than you, and here's what's going on in the world, and here's how you need to feel about it. A lot of the things that they do, they say, why are we doing this? What's going on over here? Why haven't we questioned this person about these things? Why is there silence from our government on this? That's what journalists are supposed to do. They're supposed to be the voice of the people. And instead now they're the voice of the establishment, filtering out what they think only the people should know. So now the people are becoming their own journalists. And I think this is amazing. Project Veritas, once they got rid of, what's his name there? He made OMG Media. And I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. I know you guys will post it below 500 times. You don't have to do that. I'll look it up after I get off the video. But the whole point is he got fired, and he said, okay, I'm just going to make on-the-ground reporting. And they're out there hiring hundreds of people, sending them, $80 cameras, saying, let's do some citizen journalism. From YouGov poll, CNN most polarizing news source. And again, this is not Newsmax doing this. This is U.gov, which is a pollster. And they say CNN is viewed as the most politically polarizing news source by the American public, according to a new poll from YouGov. But yet here we were when CNN just a short time ago was the most beloved news agency. I used to watch it because I thought they were giving me the news, the real news without the spin. And if you wanted the most up-to-date news, they were who you go to see. Now I go to Twitter. Because the minute something's breaking, you've got on-the-ground journalism. When things were popping off in some of these cities, during the protests and things like that, you had people that were live streaming straight to Twitter or live streaming to Facebook, and somebody would save it from Facebook and post it on Twitter. Twitter is my new news feed because I can follow left, right, center, and then I can make my own determination on what I feel is important to me and what I wish to believe. Maybe what I believe is wrong, but it's still left up to me as the individual to make that decision. I don't want other people telling me only what they want me to hear because it forces you to make maybe the wrong decision. Again, just like Tim Pool, you might see that and say, hey, what's going on? And they're scared because they're screaming, they're hollering, they're trying to get the president to push it through a disinformation governance. A new policy. Canada just passed C11, and more than likely that's supposed to push up reliable sources and tamp down independent journalism. They put this through because they're scared. Now they say it's to make sure that they're represented and that Canadians get more money for their work. All you have to do is, look at Linus Tech Tips. He's a Canadian. He's got, 11 million followers or whatever it was when I last saw it. And he's become very rich doing YouTube things. He didn't need a bill to support him or to help him. They're doing all this because they're afraid. They're calling you names. They're pushing back against everything because they're afraid. And it's not just that they're afraid that these major corporations are going to lose money and evaporate. They're afraid because they no longer have the public ear. And they no longer have the only voice in a segment. And whoever these, 5 or 6 billionaires that own all the media companies, they no longer have control of what you know. That's why they're afraid. And they're going to ramp this up as much as they can. Twitter and Elon Musk, because, Elon Musk wants to make money with this thing, and he's got a $44 billion investment in it, sure. But I think between advertisements and, $8 a month to get the blue check mark to verify you, which I paid for because I believe in paying things that I support, and I support Elon in doing this with Twitter. And now you're going to be able to subscribe. And once that goes live, I've applied for it. Once that goes live, I'm going to turn it on. And then I'm going to tell all of you, please, if you're subscribed to me here, go over to Locals. Go over to Twitter. I'll turn it off for YouTube. Now, maybe that means you decide, no, I don't want to support you over there. Okay, I'm willing to lose that $100 or $150 a month here so that YouTube doesn't get it anymore. And maybe I only make $20 or $50 over there, but I get to keep every penny of it for the next year, and I only get 10% taken away. That's more money in my pocket. That's Elon supporting me, so I will support Elon. Instead of YouTube, when if you make a $100 live tip or super chat or whatever, YouTube keeps 30% of that. They keep $30 of yours. Where Elon says, I'll keep nothing, and then after a year, I'll keep $10. Hey, for unlimited bandwidth, I can upload now full-length videos straight to Twitter. Now he's working on getting the advertising and things like that, so that if you watch a video over there and you see advertisements, the advertisements come. So he's going to be replacing Rumble and YouTube in many ways. The only difference is it's no longer algorithm or non-algorithm fed. It's going to be, is it being shared? Are people talking about it? I think you'll find more men's content doing that. I think you'll find more reliable news doing that. And that's why they're pushing back so hard against Elon and everything that he's doing, because he went from, the world's darling that was going green and making solar panels and batteries and cars, and he was going to usher us into the next generation. And then all of a sudden, they all hate him and talk poorly about him by smearing him. And why? Because he now controls Twitter. He now allows people to have a voice back, and that's very dangerous to them. So I thought I would talk about this just for a second. For those of you that are interested, I'm going to play Tucker's speech here at the end. It's about 3 minutes long, not terribly long. So if you'd like to join us for that, stick around for a couple minutes. All right, let me pull this back up again. Here's what Tucker had to say. And again, I don't hear anything extreme out of him. I think he's just being honest. I like Tucker personally, even though I don't agree with everything he says.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. You often hear people say the news is full of lies, but most of the time that's not exactly right. Much of what you see on television or read the New York Times is in fact true in the literal sense. It could pass one of the media's own fact checks. Lawyers would be willing to sign off on it. In fact, they may have. But that doesn't make it true. It's not true. At the most basic level, the news you consume is a lie of the stealthiest and most insidious kind. Facts have been withheld on purpose, along with proportion and perspective. You are being manipulated. How does that work? Let's see. If I tell you that a man has been unjustly arrested for armed robbery, that is not, strictly speaking, a lie. He may have been framed. At this point, there's been no trial, so no one can really say. But if I don't mention the fact that the same man has been arrested for the same crime 6 times before, am I really informing you? No, I'm not. I'm misleading you. And that's what the news media are doing in every story that matters, every day of the week, every week of the year.
I'm going to pause them there just for a second. So if you look at the situation that happened in the New York subway, where you had a homeless man that had put it was probably supposed to be a carotid neck hold on a homeless man that was saying he was going to end people, and he didn't care if he was going to jail, and he was threatening a lot of people. He got taken down by a Marine who was a white guy, and of course the homeless gentleman in this case was a black guy, so that's why it made the news. And the pictures and the video that went viral didn't show another black man and another what looks to be a Hispanic man also holding him down. They made it all about the Marine who had the hold around his neck. They made that the story. They also didn't show the video where afterwards, the man, once he was released, he was still breathing. And they put him on his left side in the recovery position, and they were talking to him, saying, "Hey, are you okay?" And the Marine that had the hold around his neck was saying, "Has anybody called 911?" They were trying to help him after that. It wasn't just this narrative that the media wrote about him. After this, the news media went out there and basically painted this guy as a Michael Jackson impressionist who was kind and he just needed a place to stay. He was just having a hard time. And they showed pictures that were 10 years old and video 10 years old of him dancing on the subway. They didn't show the videos of him yelling obscenities at people in the LGHD TV community. They didn't show him harassing people, threatening them. They didn't show him and his criminal record, where he had been arrested previously 42 times, one for trying to grab and abscond and run off with a 7-year-old girl, and another time when he had punched a 63, 67-year-old woman in the face, breaking her nose. And he was released, but he was supposed to go back, and he never went back. And then that's when this altercation happened. So if you only hear that a Michael Jackson dancer / singer, impressionist, had been taken out on the subway by some crazed Marine who threw an arm around his neck because the homeless man was having a little bit of a mental breakdown, you'd say, what a horrible Marine. But when you step back and you realize this man had done very bad things, had been released from jail many times, often for hurting people, and now he's on a subway where you're enclosed and can't run away because they were on the train, and he says, I'm going to hurt you too. And the fact that this guy decided to try to defend himself, protect others, and not allow this guy to go crazy, and a bad thing happened, and the whether it was the neck hold or anything else that ended his life, they didn't even wait for toxicology reports. They started with the media spin. And that's what Tucker's talking about here, is he's just saying, hey, they're not telling you the whole story so that you make up your mind on the wrong information. And then once people make up their minds about something, many times today, people will say, yes, I already know what happened. You don't need to explain it to me. That Marine is an awful person. Yeah, but did you see the part of the video? Look. We know that's how it is. Because people are using their own biases to help them reach the decision they want to reach without getting all the information. That's what Tucker's talking about. And that's why I think what he's doing is so important, whether you believe him or not. I'll let it continue on.
What's it like to work in a system like that? After more than 30 years in the middle of it, we could tell you stories. The best you can hope for in the news business at this point is the freedom to tell the fullest truth that you can. But there are always limits. And you know that if you bump up against those limits often enough, you will be fired for it. That's not a guess, it's guaranteed. Every person who works in English language media understands that. The rule of what you can't say defines everything.
I'm going to pause one more time while I think of this, because I always have to mention this a couple of times, because somebody down in the comments below this video will inevitably say, yeah, but Tucker Carlson said this, and it's a lie, and I don't agree with him here, and he's lied about this, and he's an awful person, and blah, blah. I don't care. That's not the point of this video. I already said I don't agree with him on many of his points, or some of them. It depends on what the topic is. I disagree with him a lot. But he still should have the right to tell you the fullest truth of what he knows and what he believes, and you should have the right to hear it. Even if you hate him, even if you disagree with him. What's the old expression? I may not agree with what you say, but you should have the right to say it. That's all I'm saying here. And that's what Tucker's saying. Is like, look, if you work for these media outlets, they will tell you, if you keep on this path and keep saying these things, you're going to be out. And that's why he's saying that the news is manipulating you. And then at the end of the day, if you listen to Joe Rogan and Jimmy Dore and Tim Pool and Tucker Carlson and on, and then the mainstream news, at the end of all that, you can say, you know who I think, what I think is, from all the data that I've been given, I think this. But if you're not allowed to get that data, you're going to come to the wrong conclusion more often than not. That's all I'm saying out of this. So inevitably, I know I'm going to see Tucker Carlson is this, and I can't believe, and I'm so disappointed but I'm putting that out there so you understand my stance on this.
It's filthy, really, and it's utterly corrupting. You can't have a free society if people aren't allowed to say what they think is true. Speech is the fundamental prerequisite for democracy. That's why it's enshrined in the first of our constitutional amendments. Amazingly, as of tonight, there aren't many platforms left that allow free speech. The last big one remaining in the world, the only one, is Twitter, where we are now. Twitter has long served as the place where our national conversation incubates and develops. Twitter is not a partisan site. Everybody's allowed here, and we think that's a good thing. And yet, for the most part, the news that you see analyzed on Twitter comes from media organizations that are themselves thinly disguised propaganda outlets. You see it on cable news, you talk about it on Twitter. The result may feel like a debate, but actually the gatekeepers are still in charge. We think that's a bad system. We know exactly how it works, and we're sick of it. Starting soon, we'll be bringing a new version of the show we've been doing for the last 6.5 years to Twitter. We'll be bringing some other things too, which we'll tell you about. But for now, we're just grateful to be here. Free speech is the main right that you have. Without it, you have no others. See you soon.
And I'll put this in here because here's Elon's reply or his post covering this. He said, on this platform, unlike the one-way street of broadcast, people are able to interact, critique, and refute whatever is said. And of course, anything misleading will get community notes. Now, I will say this much about community notes. Some of the sources that they have used have been from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, Reuters, BBC, and third party. They use anything that is on the internet, and they don't necessarily correct, but they will say, according to statistics from these sites, here's when somebody says, certain things. And it's not that fact checkers state this is false or true, or they just say, hey, here's some notes on this if you want to dig a little deeper. And there are people that are from the left, center, and right that make notes. I've seen Republicans corrected, Democrats corrected, journalists corrected, all members corrected. I've seen it on just everyday, ordinary people corrected. So I think, again, community notes is not even telling you, look, this is wrong or this is right. They're saying, here's more information that you need to know. He says, I also want to be clear that we have not signed a deal of any kind whatsoever. Tucker is subject to the same rules and rewards of content creators. Rewards means subscriptions and advertising revenue share coming soon, which is a function of how many people subscribe and the advertising views associated with the content. I hope that many others, particularly from the left, also choose to be content creators on the platform. And some are. But the many on the left are saying, well, this is unfair. Well, it's because Twitter was very left-leaning, and now that it's come back closer to center, if not center, they're very upset with this. But I'll tell you this. YouTube should be afraid. Rumble should be afraid. Mainstream media should be afraid. I think why this works is because not only can you subscribe to somebody over on Twitter like you can here on YouTube, not only will they get ad revenue over on Twitter like they will on YouTube, they'll get more ad revenue. And then when you see that ad, more of it will go to the content creator, which will promote the content creators to go over there. And the biggest one that I like is that unlike YouTube, you can post whatever you want over there. So if you disagree with something I say and you want to put in a link to another website, you can. If you want to do a rebuttal video right below mine, you can do a reply with your video. And you can share the stories so that if you retweet it or you comment on it, other people that follow you will see the video or see your rebuttal. This makes it truly a community. It's like you're mixing Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Rumble all together. I have great faith in Elon Musk. I think this will work very well. And once I can get more people to start following me over there, if I turn on subscriptions, and once they start paying you for ad revenue, I will likely be off YouTube. I've told you many times of my dislikes of YouTube. My community is actually growing faster over on Twitter. Even though I only have 7,500 people over there, I get more or just about the same number of new people following me there as I do here. And there's no algorithm. It's just people sharing things organically. I think this is a good thing. Let me know what you guys think down below, and we'll see you in the next one.